G'day legends, I hope you're all awesome. On today's video, we're going to take a look at Submission Audio's EUROBASS 3 virtual instrument for Contact. I've been using EUROBASS 2 for a few years now. Absolutely love it for doing demos and putting together little clips for YouTube that you see and hear on the channel. EUROBASS 3 basically expands on the available sounds, the available articulations, and adds a whole bunch of new features like the ability to have slap and pop articulations. You can force particular notes to be played with certain samples, and the overall internal sound engine has been greatly expanded. I'll give you a little demo track featuring EUROBASS 3. Then I'm going to break down that track and talk about some of the more in-depth options available in the plugin. Let's go. When I put together tracks like this, whether I'm writing a demo or I'm putting together a track for a YouTube video, there's essentially three essential things that I need aside from my DAW and my guitar. My Axe effects, which I use for all the processing and which I use on this track, then some kind of drum sample library, either in Contact or SSD5. I use one of the Get Good Drums One Kit Wonder sample libraries here, and then a bass plugin. I've been using EUROBASS 2 for a long time. One, because it sounds good, it's relatively easy to program, and also having a perfectly in-tune bass guitar as a reference is really handy because it lets me know when I'm out of tune on the guitar, which me playing a real bass doesn't necessarily do. But I've loaded EUROBASS 3 for this particular track. I'll let you have a look at what's going on at the very start with the MIDI. Basically, I just took the drum kind of pre-programmed loop that I put together and I copied the kick drums down here to a low A on the bass. Furthermore, I'm using an articulation that you can get to with the built-in key switches to have all of these notes played as upstrokes. So kind of going for a little djenty thing. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like in the track and then soloed. Okay, so I'm using the built-in distortion here as well, and I just kind of tweaked the amount of compression and the girth as well as the tone. This is a section that you can't get access to on EUROBASS 2, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I also used the Humanize function down here, which was very, very handy. I'll let you hear the difference between kind of machine, human, and bassist on here. I will talk about some more of these advanced kind of key switch functions and the position parameter down here in a little bit, but for now, so I just kind of want to work on showing you what I did for this particular track. So let's have a look at this. You can also see the articulations down here. So I have programmed a bunch of different articulations. Let's go from machine, and then I'll just slowly turn this knob. It's going to kind of randomize the velocities, which I like having that in the plugin and not having to do that manually in the MIDI editor. So let's do that again and have a listen to what it sounds like with bass. Alrighty, then the next section, I'm using the new slap, pop, dead slap, and dead pop articulations for the kind of funk part in there. I've programmed this over here, and let me just kind of zoom in on that MIDI so you can see it, because while it looks like there's a lot going on there, it was pretty straightforward and intuitive for me to kind of write out the line and think about how I would slap it and pop it if I could slap and pop, which I totally can't do. For this, I used the clean processing just at the stock settings. I did add a little bit of pitch detune on there just to make it sound super funky and super 80s as well. So you can see the bass line here. I'm basically just playing lots of octaves, you know, the idea of these notes being a slap, which I've plugged in as a key command down here, and then all the high notes are either going to be pops or dead pops. So I'll let you hear the line along with the drums, and then I'll remove the articulations so that you can just kind of hear how it would sound, you know, with picking on, say, EUROBASS 2. You don't have the slap or pop articulations on there. They really bring it to life. I've also used some hammer-on articulations as well for these kind of triplety parts in here. This is my favorite part of the track. It was my favorite part to kind of put together and program. And, you know, for me, this would probably take me like 5 or 10 years of practicing bass guitar to be able to play like this if I put a lot of work in. But for now, I've just got it. Let's hear that now with the drums. The last section, it just kind of goes back to that super heavy bass with the other instance of the plugin. I should have mentioned earlier as well, there is the Doom button, which basically gets rid of all this humanizing stuff and just gives you max velocity for everything. For me, I much prefer kind of having the humanize function on and having it, you know, around bassist human, kind of the recommended setting in there. It does sound a lot more natural, but having these funk and pop articulations is so fun. I was going to show you what it sounds like without those articulations, so I'll do that now. All right, this is what that line would sound like, alternate picked, again, with the drums in there. I'll let you hear it with those articulations back in there now. And one last example, I'll add those funky, clean guitars back in there. No articulations on the bass, and then we'll hear it with the slap and pop articulations. It just brings so much more energy to the track. It's so fun to listen to, and I know I'm going to be totally overdoing the kind of slap and pop stuff on all the little demos that I put together. But again, that's kind of the beauty of a plugin like this, whether you just want a really in-tune, clean DI, or whether you want stuff that you can hear in your head that you can't necessarily play yourself. That's the advantage of having a great plugin like this to do all of that. I'll dive a little bit deeper into some of the key switch stuff now. I'm going to bring up a different bass riff for you. You may recognize this one. Let's do a really quick comparison between the DI and processed sounds between EUROBASS 2 and EUROBASS 3. I've got an instance of EUROBASS 3 dialed up just on the DI, and I've got EUROBASS 2 over here set similarly. These MIDI tracks all have the same velocities on there. I don't know why this is shaded slightly brighter than the others, just a quirk of Pro Tools, I guess. So I'll play you the original bass line with EUROBASS 2, then we will swap over to EUROBASS 3. Let's do it. So way fatter and more detailed on EUROBASS 3. One factor that I think really sets this apart is the fact that on EUROBASS 2, if you were to apply, say, the clean tone or the distorted tone on there, they were pre-processed samples. Now in EUROBASS 3, you've got the DI samples and they get processed in real time. You've got this clean setting on here with a mixer and a distorted setting on here with controls for drive, tone, compress, and girth. I'll just play around with these a little bit just so you get an idea of what each of these controls do. We'll start off with the drive, and then the tone is going to go basically from being a lot more aggressive and clicky to more of that kind of fat classic Spectre thing. Then of course you've got compression, and I'll let you hear what girth does. Let's hear that. So aside from the Humanize function, which I talked about before, there are two other features which make this sound considerably more realistic. You have this position control on here, which will basically set it up so you can preference particular notes on the neck. And what I like about this is if you hear the same note played in different positions on the neck, it has been sampled in different places, so you get a different timbre out of them. For example, let's play the 3rd fret here, and then the 8th fret up here. You can hear you've got a different tonal quality out of each of those. So what you can actually do is use this position control, or what I've done over here is use the force string articulations. What these will let you do is for particular pieces of MIDI in here, assign them to a string. I've also changed the bass tuning on here. So there's basically drop C and then with a low G on here. And what I'll do here is I'll show you the way this kind of just by default maps the notes onto the bass, and then I'll swap over to another instance of the plugin where I've gone in and I've assigned every single one of these notes to the position where they were actually played on the real bass guitar on the recording. So let's take a look at this. I'm just going to go back to the DI sound for now so we can do a one-to-one comparison on there. You'll see the notes and where EUROBASS just kind of automatically maps them. Alrighty, now I'm going to go to this other instance over here of EUROBASS. And what I've done here, like I said, I've mapped each of these notes to the particular positions they're played on. There's a very specific fingering for this riff. If you've played it on guitar and you want it played exactly that way on bass, this will give it to you. So let's take a look at the fingering now. And you can hear that by sticking to these two strings here, you know, on a drop C 4-string bass, it would be the low string and the 2nd string on there. You're getting more of that kind of fat tone. You're not getting the kind of clicky stuff up here, which I think sounds pretty cool. So I'll do a very quick side-by-side between those two examples, the one without the force key articulations and then the ones with. This is so cool. And you didn't have any of these options in EUROBASS 2. I'll let you hear EUROBASS 2 side by side. So we'll go EUROBASS 2, then 3 without the force key articulations, and then finally the kind of polished up version with the force key articulations. And just for good measure, let's hear those same examples distorted. I'll just go between the version with no force key articulation. I've got all of the controls at noon for the stock distorted sound on both instances of the plugin. Let's hear it. Which to me sounds far more realistic. And again, because the song was actually played this way, far more what I am used to. Thanks again for checking out the video. If you've got any other questions, let me know in the comment section below. A big thank you to Jason and the team at Submission Audio for getting me a copy of this in advance to play around with and make a demo video with. If you're interested in buying this particular virtual instrument or you want to upgrade from EUROBASS 2, you can use the affiliate link in the video description. Full disclaimer, there is a small kickback to me if you follow that link. There's no extra cost involved to you, as with any of the affiliate links you can follow in the video description or any other ways you want to support what I do here on the channel directly. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.